Hello, my dear beloved friends and my respectful lecturer. Here I am thrilled to present a comprehensive synthesis of 10 selected articles that revolve around a critical issue in language education, namely enhancing speaking skills and public speaking confidence, breaking psychological barriers through technological and pedagogical innovations. The articles reviewed were published between 2012 and 2025 and come from various educational contexts. Although each study focuses on a different aspect of speaking development, together they form a coherent framework for understanding why students struggle to speak English and how educators can help them overcome those challenges. Before discussing the solutions, let us first understand the problems that students face when speaking English. The first slide, we will talk about why do students struggle to speak English. Let us begin by mapping the fundamental problems. First, why do many university students suddenly freeze, hesitate, or become nervous when speaking English even after years for studying the language? According to Megawati and Mandarani in 2016 and Chan in 2021, the most common barriers are limited vocabulary mastery, low self-confidence, and fear of making mistakes. These studies are particularly valuable because they provide a realistic picture of what happens inside EFL classroom. Through through interviews and observations, they reveal that students often know what they want to say, but they lack the vocabulary to express it. As a result, they become anxious and choose to remain silent. The major strength of both studies is their rich qualitative data collected directly from learners. However, the weakness lies in their limited scope because they only involve relatively small participant groups in specific educational settings. Besides the language related factors, they are also personality related influences, which are explored in the next article. So we go to the next slide. About the physiological barriers. Aftiyama, Rohayati, and Nugrayani in 2022 investigated the relationship between personality traits and speaking performance. Their findings shows that introversion contributes approximately 22% to students' speaking achievement. This finding is important because it reminds teachers that speaking difficulties are not always caused by language deficiencies. Sometimes students possess adequate linguistic knowledge but still hesitate to participate because of their personality characteristics. So, the strength of this study is its statistical evidence showing a miserable relationship between introversion and speaking performance. However, its weakness is that the study only establishes correlation rather than causation. Therefore, we cannot conclude that introversion directly causes poor speaking ability. If these psychological barriers continue to develop without support, they can eventually affect students physically, which lead us to the next study. The next slide is about when anxiety becomes physical. Zuardi and colleagues in 2013 provided strong evidence that speaking anxiety is not merely a psychological phenomenon. Their experimental research demonstrated that public speaking significantly increases heart rate, blood pressure, and stress level. Interestingly, these psychological reactions were much stronger during real public speaking situations compared to stimulated speaking activities. The strength of this study lies in its rigorous experimental design, which combined laboratory testing with broader analytical approaches. However, the study also has limitations because the participants consisted mainly of healthy university students without anxiety disorders, making the findings less representative of wider populations. At this point, we can clearly see the problem. Next, the student experience psychological barrier, personality-related challenges, and even psychological stress. So the question becomes, how can these barriers can be reduced? The answer is going to the vocabulary mastery as the foundation. The first solution comes from Delimonte and Haryadi in 2022. Using a quantitative design and a two-way ANOVA analysis, they found that vocabulary mastery has a significant positive effect on speaking ability. This study provides empirical evidence that vocabulary is not simply about knowing words. It directly influences confidence, fluency, and speaking performance. When students possess a larger vocabulary bank, they can retrieve ideas more quickly, formulate sentences more efficiently, and communicate with greater confidence. As a consequence, many of the anxieties discussed in the previous studies gradually decrease. The major strength of this study is its clear pedagogical implication for language teachers. Nevertheless, the sample size were relatively small and focused on vocational school students, which limits generalizability. Once students have this vocabulary foundation, the next challenge is creating an environment where they can practice comfortably and consistently. So going to the next slide, technology as a speaking practice space. This is where digital transformation become important. Stefanisen and Kellimon in 2021 argued that online learning platforms provide flexible opportunities for speaking practice. Students can practice speaking anytime and anywhere without being restricted by classroom schedule. The main benefit of this article is its practical guidance and numerous examples of technology integration. However, the article remains largely theoretical because it does not include substantial empirical evidence from learners. To address this limitation, other researchers explored more concrete technological tools, starting with social media. TikTok for speaking practice. Herlisha and Wiratno in 2022 integrated TikTok into speaking instruction through classroom action research. Their findings show that creating short speaking videos significantly increased student participation, confidence, and engagement. One reason for this success is that TikTok provides a very familiar and enjoyable environment for students. Instead of perceiving speaking tasks as formal examinations, learners view them as creative content production. The strength of this study lies in its relevance to modern learners, particularly Generation Z students. However, the study was conducted over a relatively short period. It remains unclear whether these positive effects can be maintained in the long term. Moving beyond social media, researchers also investigated more structured forms of technology-enhanced learning. Wiki-based blended learning. Ibrahim and Yusuf in 2012 introduced wiki technology in a blended learning environment. Students recorded speeches, uploaded them online, and received feedback from both peers and instructors. This process allows students to identify pronunciation issues, improve fluency, and revise their performance continuously. The major strength of this study is its balanced combination of face-to-face instruction and online interaction. However, similar to several previous studies, the sample size were relatively small, consisting of only 40 biotechnology undergraduates. As technology continues to evolve, educational researchers have recently explored an even more advanced tool. It is artificial intelligence. AI as a speaking coach. The most recent article by Isatelis, Eklan, and Karpinen in 2025 examined AI-generated feedback for public speaking practice. Students reported that AI feedback was valuable because it was immediate, highly specific, and completely neutral. Unlike human evaluators, AI does not judge, criticize, or create social pressure. Consequently, students feel safer when practicing and receiving feedback. This makes AI a powerful tool for developing presentation skills and reducing anxiety. The primary limitation of the study is its relatively small sample of only 31 students from a single Finnish university. Despite this limitation, the findings suggest that AI can become an important supplement to speaking instruction. However, technology alone is not enough. So, the complete pedagogical puzzle. When we connect all 10 articles together, all clear pattern emerges. Megawati, Chan, FTM, and Zuardi explain the roots of speaking anxiety from linguistic, psychological, and sociological perspective. Dalimonte provides the linguistic foundation through vocabulary mastery. Stephanism, Herlisha, Ibrahim, and Isotalus demonstrate how technology can create supportive and low-stress practice environment. Yet, one final piece is still missing, the real-world communication experience. So the last slide is about the conclusion. This final piece is provided by MagNet in 2019 through a service learning approach. Students participated in authentic community projects that required real public speaking experiences outside the classroom. Through a longitudinal study, MagNet demonstrated that the real-world exposure significantly reduces speaking anxiety and improves communication effectiveness. The strength of this study is its structured evaluation over 4 months. Its limitation is its focus on management students from a single university. To conclude, these 10 articles collectively build a complete pedagogical framework. They show that speaking confidence cannot be developed through a single strategy alone. Instead, effective speaking instruction requires a combination of vocabulary development, psychological support, technological innovation, constructive feedback, and authentic communication experience. Technology may create opportunities for practice, but true communication confidence is ultimately strengthened through meaningful human interaction. That concludes my synthesis presentation. Thank you very much for your attention, and I will close my video by saying thank you and goodbye.